What's up, guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here, and welcome back to my weekly Q&A sessions where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. But this is no ordinary Q&A. This is the 50th Q&A of the channel, and I want to take a second to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. A lot of you have been here since the very first Q&A and beyond, so thank you so much. I really do appreciate all of your dedication and taking the time to support my channel. Speaking of support, before we get into this week's Q&A, I made you guys a little promise a few months ago. I said for my 50th Q&A, I would let you know whether or not I could continue with the site. I figured that would be enough time, and I have some good news to give you today. It looks like, at least as of right now, I'll be able to continue. Granted, I don't know how long I'll be able to, but at least for now, I'll be able to continue with this site. I'm very happy about that, and I hope you guys are too. I want to thank you guys so much for supporting me. My patrons who have made very generous contributions to my site. The folks out there who are always watching every video that I put up. Those of you who are tweeting it out or sharing it on social media. Thank you so much. I appreciate your positive vibes, your support. Thank you so much for being here. So I hope that makes you guys happy. I'm really hoping that we're going to get some Halo 6 news this year, some concrete Halo 6 news that'll help, because Halo channels in general are pretty much suffering right now because it's been probably the longest drought we've ever had in terms of AAA Halo titles. So hopefully we'll get something this year. In the meantime, I just want to let you know a little bit what I'm planning ahead. I know a while back I said I'd be making a hard switch to Dino Fights after the Halo 5 Guardians Mythic walkthrough was complete. Since the Mythic walkthrough is almost done, I've gone back, and you know what, I've really given this a lot of thought, and I think what I would enjoy doing more, and I think what you would enjoy watching more, is more Halo-focused content. And what I plan to do, at least, is to focus on Bungie-era Halo games. So, hopefully those of you who are more old-school Halo fans will really appreciate that, and hopefully, this will get us through until Halo 6 information starts to drop. So let's go ahead and get into this Q&A. If you're not sure how to ask a question, 3 easy ways to do it. 1, comment section below. 2, you can hit me up on Twitter. 3, if you're a patron and you're a member of the Discord, then we have a special section on there for you as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Our first question of the week comes from Matt K. And Matt asks, Q&A, could 343 and Rooster Teeth, makers of Red vs. Blue, join together and make a Halo movie, with the movie using the art style used in the freelance project season, like the battles with text in them? I think that would be a pretty awesome idea. My favorite season of Red vs. Blue, period, is season 8. And I love the full animated scenes they did in later seasons. Those are pretty awesome, and I would love to see a full-length feature film like that. I love the characters from Red vs. Blue. For me, I stopped watching after season 11, and primarily because I thought season 10 had an excellent close to the story, and season 11 just felt like it was tagged on there, and I haven't really caught up with the series since. I've heard it's still really good. It's just, for me, I enjoy that part of the story. So for me, Red vs. Blue is seasons 1 through 10. However, I could see an action-based movie being made. I'm still not entirely sure if Red vs. Blue technically takes place in the Halo universe. I mean, of course it doesn't, but I don't know if the folks at Rooster Teeth intended for it to. I've heard Master Chief referenced in some of the older episodes, so I don't know, but it would be really cool to have a full-length Red vs. Blue feature film that featured the cast from the series and with all the cool animations from the later seasons, or at least seasons 8 through 10. So excellent question, Matt K. Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. No Life, and Mr. No Life asks, Q&A, if you could design a mission in Halo, regardless of what the story or lore of it would be, how would you design it? This is a great one. So I've given this one some thought, and honestly, the biggest disappointment I had when we were in High Charity in Halo 2 was not being able to see those lower districts where you see all those tall, pretty buildings. I think that would have been really cool. And in terms of design, I imagine it would be very similar to Halo 5's Battle of Sinayan. That's probably the closest we're ever going to get to seeing like the lower districts of High Charity, but I'd love to see sort of an Earth City style mission, but with Covenant architecture. So that's how I would do it. Instead of the mission High Charity in Halo 2, have it take place in the lower districts instead. I think that would be awesome. And then you would be making your way to the Forerunner key ship rather than just kind of zip lining down there. So yeah, that's exactly what I would do, Mr. No Life. So thank you, my friend. Our next question comes from Claude Assassin, and Claude asks, Q&A, should Promethean soldiers lose the ability to speak? I liked the Prometheans better when they didn't speak, and now with soldiers, I can't take them seriously anymore because it feels so out of place. I'm less concerned about them speaking, to be honest with you, and more concerned about their teleportation abilities. I think those need to be either nerfed or nixed altogether. They need to have more conventional ways of being brought into battles, and in terms of the soldiers phasing, if you know, that's what I call in any way to sort of differentiate it from the actual teleporting. I think that should be nixed. In terms of speaking, it's so warped and so techno that I don't really notice it. It just sounds like their own form of communication, and maybe they should just have that. Maybe it should be their own form of communication. It makes them feel a little less like robots and a little less lifeless. So I'd like some form of communication there, but it doesn't need to be English. I feel like English speaking aliens is just overdone. So yep, I would say I'm half with you on that one, but I'd still like to have them have some sort of language, if that makes sense. So thanks for stopping by, Claude Assassin. Always good to hear from you. Our next question comes from Easy5, and Easy asks, Q&A, they should bring back the Arbiter in Halo 6 and playable elites like in Halo Reach and Halo 3. Should they? Okay. I think I've addressed this one before. The only thing I could possibly weigh in on there, I feel like playable elites could be brought back very easily if they incorporate invasion in Halo 6. So that way you could technically play elites, but it wouldn't be a mixture of Spartans and elites in standard multiplayer. That's all I can really say about that. So yeah, good point to bring up, Easy5. Our next question comes from Evil Guide 172174, and Evil Guide asks, Q&A, what would you think of a purely military-focused Halo game? With 343's games being designed for a younger audience, with Halo 5 being Power Rangers on steroids, Reach was my favorite game because it fleshed out the UNSC and showed exactly what the Covenant was capable of. Yeah, actually that makes a lot of sense to me. It does. Halo 5 does remind me a lot of Power Rangers. We need Halo Zord power now! The thing of it is, it works and it doesn't work. I feel like Halo Combat Evolved had a very military-style campaign for the most part. It wasn't overly done with the science fantasy stuff, and I really enjoyed it. Halo Reach, I enjoyed to a point, and I probably would have enjoyed it even more if we hadn't already had lore that pertained to Reach. So yeah, I could see it done. I think they got a little carried away with Halo 5 though, because they went so military that none of the characters felt like characters. You know, even in Halo Reach, even though there wasn't a lot of emphasis on characterization, still each individual character felt unique and felt like they were contributing something to the overall story, as opposed to Halo 5, where everyone is just there because you need squad systems. So I'd be fine with that, but I would like to see an emphasis on making characters unique, even if they're still very militarized, if that makes any sense. And again, as an example, they could use Halo Reach as a template for that. So that's a great question, Evil Guy. Thank you. Our next question comes from Chief Burner. And Chief Burner asks, I meant to ask you this one question that I don't think anyone has asked in your Q&A. MythicTyrant Q&A, what is your favorite weapon in all of Halo? Easy, the Halo 3 Gravity Hammer. In fact, that's one of the main reasons why I got so into Griffball. I think it looks cool, it feels cool, and it was just always so badass to use. Even the Gravity Hammers in Halo Reach and Halo 4, I don't really use them in Halo 5 that often, but in Halo, those other games, you know, it was very useful, but I feel like the best Gravity Hammer was still in Halo 3. So great question, Chief Burner, thank you. Our next question comes from the Waffle Man. And the Waffle Man asks, what was your hardest, most hated fight in a Halo game? He actually went on to say his was Truth and Reconciliation when you first enter their ship. And yeah, that one was definitely tough. That in the first hangar bay, or the hangar in general, when Truth and Reconciliation, those were all really tough. In terms of it, but the thing of it is with those battles, I feel like they were fair. They weren't universe breaking, and if you knew what you were doing and you knew how to prepare for it, it was tough, but it wasn't invincible. To quote Sergeant Johnson on that one, if I had to pick one particular battle that grinds my gears in any Halo game, it's the Battle of Regret from Halo 2 when you're fighting the Prophet. So essentially what makes that one so tough, first of all, the Halo 2 boss battles were a complete, well, at least in my opinion, I didn't enjoy them that much because they were very universe breaking. You could only kill the enemy when Bungie wanted you to, how they wanted you to, versus, at least in Halo 5, I know people don't want me using that as a positive example, but at least the Warden Eternal, even as repetitive as he was, did not feel like he was universe breaking. You could still take him out with many weapons in many different ways. In Halo 2, that's not what boss battles were, and with the Prophet of Regret specifically, granted it was cool that how you did it, but you had to literally close the distance between you and the Prophet, you had to board his gravity throne, and you had to punch him square in the face. That part doesn't really bother me as much as it used to. What does bug me is the fact that he has an infinite number of honor guard henchmen that can help him. So you're constantly running around the temple, you're trying to board the Prophet before he teleports to a different location, and you're constantly trying to dodge all these honor guard elites and these grunts. And no matter what you do, your first instinct with those guys is to try to hang back by the door and systematically, kill them off. But you can't do that. You have to actually go in there and fight. And you have to dodge these guys at the same time. And what makes this even worse is if when you board the chair and you start punching the Prophet, when he teleports away, you drop down. And you could drop down right in the middle of a mass of honor guard elites with swords and carbines and everything and plasma rifles, and it's crazy. So that to me was the most frustrating. It was worse than the Heretic boss fight. It was worse than the Tartarus boss fight. To me, that's the one that I usually dread the most going into Halo 2. So that to me is the most frustrating. But you guys watching this right now, let me know in the comments below what your personal toughest battle in any Halo game was. Our next question comes from Halo 2 Jackal Sniper. Speaking of Halo 2, and Halo 2 Jackal Sniper asks, Q&A, what was your favorite Halo game on PC? Well, as far as I know, there's only 2 from the main series. I mean, technically now you've got Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2. You also have Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike. But if I had to name my favorite, it would be the original Halo PC. In fact, even today, it's still pretty popular. If you load up Halo PC and you go into multiplayer, it's got hundreds of servers that are online. Many of them are full. 16 versus 16 Blood Gulch has always been a favorite for Halo PC. And, I had a lot of fun with that. That's pretty much the only game I've ever modded for the Halo series. I tried it a little bit with Halo 2, but it wasn't as fun. But with Halo, this was way back in the day, too. This was when I had, I was still living in the country. We didn't have broadband yet, and that was basically the only way I could enhance my experience after I was done with the campaign. But with Combat Evolved, it was a lot of fun. I remember going to Halo Mods, the website, and I remember the first time I understood what a mod was when I got hit by a tank shell that was fired from a pistol, and it just blew my mind. It was awesome. And so I got a lot of replay value out of that, even when I was just done with the multiplayer. Even the multiplayer was a lot of fun. I could play on dial-up even before I had broadband, even though I'm sure everyone in the match hated my cuts because I was forcing everyone to lag. But it was still a lot of fun. I loved having 8 versus 8 with having a full screen in Halo Combat Evolved. I still love the classic maps even today. And so I'd still have to say that even though I still enjoyed Halo 2 Vista, that I ended up ironically playing on Windows XP, I still treasure Halo Combat Evolved PC to this very day. So yeah, that's a great question, Halo 2 Jackal Sniper. And ironically in his question he included that his favorite was also the original Halo PC, which his name is Halo 2 Jackal Sniper. I think that's funny, but that's good taste, my friend, good taste. Our next question comes from Halo Elite, and Halo Elite asks, what was your favorite flood level? Ironically, this was also in Halo 2. I know I give the game a harder time than I probably should, but my favorite Halo flood mission of all time is probably Quarantine Zone from Halo 2. I love the pacing of the mission. You're constantly flying through. It's got great music. That song Reclaimer by Marty O'Donnell's rocking you senseless. It's amazing. I enjoy that there's this feeling of suspense and this feeling of you have to get from point A to point B. And it's beautiful. It's the music's beautiful. The rising tension is awesome, and it feels like you're in the midst of this massive war. The scenery's great too. So definitely Quarantine Zone from Halo 2. But what's your favorite mission, Halo Flood mission? Let me know in the comments below, my friend. Our next question comes from Quantum Easy, and Quantum asks, Q&A Tyrant, what is your favorite antagonist from the Halo franchise? Example, Gravemind, Prophet of Truth, Didact, Warren Eternal, Atriox, etc. All right, so this is a close one for me, because I'll be honest with you, I really do like the Didact as a character. He's menacing, he's scary, he's almost godlike in a sense because of all these powers and abilities he has, and he's very articulate. And so, when you're going up against him, you feel like this is a losing battle. With the Didact, you don't know how you're going to stop this guy, and honestly the way you stopped him was pretty cheesy in my opinion, but he was a very menacing villain and seemed nearly unstoppable. So I really enjoyed the Didact. I was a little disappointed that they closed off his story in Halo Escalation. I would have personally liked to have seen that in the game. Maybe we'll get a flashback at some point in time, or maybe they'll turn Halo Escalation and somehow adapt it to game format. But my favorite villain of all the Halo games has got to be the Gravemind, just because of the power and influence this guy has. This is the one creature that could technically beat the Didact. The Gravemind is everything. He's massive. He can control entire fleets. He's everywhere, and so I love the way he rhymes when he talks sometimes. I love just how deceiving and conniving he can be. He is an excellent villain, and when you first run into him in Halo 2, you don't think he's a bad guy, even though he's Flood. You feel like this is the intelligent side of the Flood speaking. But yeah, I'd have to say easily the Gravemind is probably my favorite. Plus, I think he has the coolest name too. So excellent question, Quantum Easy. Always good to hear from you. Our next question comes from CFunk99, and give CFunk99 a shout out because today is his birthday. Happy birthday, my friend. Always good to see you here. And CFunk asks, if 343 is planning to make a Halo Harvest game, when do you think it would come out? Well, I would hope after Halo 2, or Halo 2, where's my mind? Okay, I hope not until after Halo 6. I'm hoping that Halo 6 is going to close off the Reclaimer saga. And if they're able to do that, great. So what are they going to do after Halo 6? Well, my ideas in the past have been there's still tons of stories in the Halo universe that can be told via video games. There's a lot of history there. And Harvest is something that hasn't been really focused on a lot. I think, people have told me Harvest would make sort of a dull game just because of things that did happen on there. But, I keep thinking back to Halo Wars and that 5 long years speech that Captain Cutter gave at the beginning of the game. And I think, well, you know what, there's still stuff there. And even if there isn't in known lore, 343 and Microsoft in general can always write new things to add to it. I don't want them trying to retcon Harvest or anything like that. But, kind of like with Halo Reach, even though they did retcon the story of Reach a little bit there, they still told a different side of the war, so we can still see a different side of the events that happened on Harvest, even if the stuff that's currently there wouldn't necessarily make a great game in general. So I would say, yes, I agree to having a Halo Harvest game. I'd still support that, and I would have to say, if they do make it, maybe, I'd say probably maybe in the mid-2020s or something like that, we could see something along those lines, or in the early 2020s, depending on what they're planning on doing for the 20th anniversary of Halo, which of course is going to be in 2021. So always good to hear from you, C-Funk, and again, happy birthday, my friend. And our final question of the week, our star question, comes from Devon Hart. And Devon asked, Q&A Tyrant, this is an add-on to last week's video. Which Halo art style is your least favorite? So I'm glad he brought this up. You may have noticed that I hadn't posted any videos this week, and that's mainly because I'm trying to, hurry up with the Halo 5 Mythic difficulty walkthrough. But at the same time, I figured, you know what? People seem to really enjoy last week's Q&A, and why not do a follow-up to it? We did Last week, if you missed it, it was what is the best art style of any Halo game. So it seems logical that the next one would be what is the worst art style. And I've given this one a lot of thought because every art style in every Halo game is unique in its own way. In fact, if you look at the thumbnail from last week's video, those are released from Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo Reach. And all three of them look vastly different from each other, as well as the ones from Halo 4 and Halo 5, although I consider them to be more drastic changes. So, which one is, in my opinion, the least, what's the word I'm looking for? Which is the worst? Okay, in my opinion, personally, I'd have to say Halo 5, without a doubt. There's a lot wrong with it. So if you go back and you look at Halo 4, okay, where that's when the art designs really started to change. You know, grunts started looking like mountain trolls from Lord of the Rings. But here's the thing, though. Halo 4, at the very least, tried to make things more realistic as opposed to the typical cartooniness or borderline cartooniness of the previous Halo games, with maybe the exception of Reach. Halo 5 took a step backwards in that direction, so they kept the changes that were in Halo 4, but they tried going back to semi-cartoon style, even to the point where, I know Power Rangers aren't cartoons, but they're cartoon-ish, if that makes sense. And that's what I feel like they sort of drew some of their inspiration from. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. Halo Rangers now! It's Halo Zord time! Whatever, it felt weird going from the transition from Halo 4 to a more realistic setting to a more cartoony setting based off of the changed graphics. If you look at an Elite up close, it just looks weird. You know, I'm fine with the bright colors, that goes well with Combat Evolved, but, you know, the art designs in general just look weird. Like, if you look at an Elite Warrior, it looks like he's got, like, a chain going down his back. What's the deal with that? If you look at grunts, they feel like they're just nerfed versions of the ones from Halo 4. Jackals aren't too bad. I'm okay with those. And the Prometheans, there's so much better. Now, the crawlers look basically the same. The soldiers are brand new, so we have nothing to compare them to. The knights look weird. They almost look like walking houses, if that makes sense, because their shoulders are now slanted, if you've noticed that. And now they've got the weird vent things. Again, I'm glad they gave the Prometheans, or the knights specifically, weak spots, but they just look so different. Their swords are now all curvy and stuff, as opposed to what they looked like in Halo 4, where they had a slight curve to them, but they also looked like swords. In Halo 5, they look like they're just canes attached to their arms. It's really weird. And then on top of that, you got the vents, the slanted the slanted shoulders. It looks so weird to me. Then you have the environments. Now, they did a fine job for some of the environments. Battle of Sinayan really stands out in this sense, but then you have other ones, okay? You have a lot of, like, snowy or ashy missions, and when I say ashy, I mean the missions when you're on Meridian and they're chipping away the glass. Everything looks so bland and burned, but sort of grayish white at the same time, which I guess is supposed to signify glass, but it looks like snow. And you get that for like 5 missions or something like that. And then of course you have the first mission on Kamchatka, which is all snow and stuff too. And I'm just like, it's bland. At the very least, it's bland, or at the very best, it's bland. At the least, it's just lazy. You know, so it turned me off in that regard. There's only a few missions in Halo 5 that I actually think look good. Blue Team is one of them. And I would say Swords of St. Helios, kind of. You know, I think they did well in some areas of that mission, especially the large spiral room at the beginning. But then you get to enemy lines, and it's all sand and dust, and you know, it looks really weird. It looks like a desert, but not a desert at the same time. Really, Battle of Sinayan is probably the one that stands out the most. Heck, even the final mission has a bunch of snow and stuff. I don't know what it is with snow in Halo 5 or a snowy look, but it's dull. It feels very dull. I look at some of the vehicles and I feel like they looked better in previous Halo games. I don't understand what direction they were going in with Halo 5. Even Chief's armor I thought looked better in Halo 4 than in Halo 5, and I shouldn't feel that way because Halo 5 is a newer game. If you look at Chief's armor in the previous games, I enjoyed his armor in Combat Evolved. In Halo 2, it looked a little bit better. In Halo 3, it looked absolutely amazing. In Halo 4, yeah, there were some art style changes to it, but I still preferred that over 5. 5 just feels like it went in a weird direction in that area. But I am curious to hear what you guys think and what your least favorite art style is of any of the Halo games out there. Do you agree with my opinion, or do you have one that's entirely different? Whatever your thoughts are, I hope you'll let me know in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. And I want to take a second to thank each and every one of you for not only watching this video today, for taking the valuable time out of your day to be here, but for supporting this series for all 50 of these Q&A sessions. I enjoy it. It's something I look forward to doing every week, and I enjoy being able to sit down with all of you and just discuss Halo. It's amazing. You're amazing, and thank you for being here. And if you like this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing for more great content right here on MythicTyrant.com. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I'll catch you all right back here next time. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.